يا صادق الأقوال يا محمد، يا طاهر الأخلاق يا محمد، يا هدي الأكوان يا محمد، يا تاج رسل الله يا محمد، يا خير خلق الله يا رسول الله. يا نبي الله صفي الله يا محمد، يا ولي الله حفي الله يا محمد، يا بشير الله نبي الله يا محمد، يا حبيب الله شفيع الله يا محمد، يا خير خلق الله يا رسول الله. يا بدر التمام نور الظلام علي المقام.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Welcome all members to another session of the companion joint Usrah in the 4th month of Islam, and a slight departure of what the topics we used to take, and a deviation equally from the caliber of lecturer we normally bring. But why we have done this is that we cannot continue to bring lecturer of our own generation, knowing fully well that most of us, we are on the descending ladder. We have to allow our children to do what they will do while we have gone, while we are still alive. And so, our topic today is living a healthy life, Islamic and scientific facts. So the Dawah Directorate of the Companion, they actually wanted an older person to do this. As one that said, no, we have a younger person that is equally capable due to his level of training that I know. Our lecturer today, Dr. Muhammad Abiola Olawale, was born in Lagos. He attended University of Lagos Staff School in Yaraba. Equally attended University of Lagos and Lagos State University Hospital. He was enabled Amir of MSSN of the Staff School 2004-2005, showing that he has shown his level of affinity to Islam right from youth age. He is currently working as a medical doctor in the psychiatric department of Lagos State University Hospital in Yaraba. He attended the Lutz/CMUL Muslim Community Madrasa, and is equally a teacher. He's currently a teacher in that same madrasa now. The other thing he did not put here, which I will assist him to put, is that the addition to it is that he is married with a daughter, and what is not here is that he's my business partner. To some of you that we distributed wraps during Ileya, the last Ileya, himself and myself, we went to very close to the border of Niger to buy all those wraps, and we actually raised them for over a month before selling them to you. So, Muhammad Olawale Abiola, Abi? His name is Muhammad Olawale Abiola. Okay, the son of our brother, Dr. Abiola, and our sister, Ìyá Olóúnjẹ tí gbogbo àmọ́ ẹ̀, Alájà Fatima Abiola. So, He is equally enterprising. We've had cause to do a number of businesses together, despite the fact that he's a medical doctor. So why we're saying this is that
as long as you are not doing
I'm not a doctor. I'm not a medical doctor. I'm actually. So why we're saying all this is to encourage all other people in this category to say that what we have always said is there should be supplementary source of income for us if we do not want to steal where we are working. You must have supplementary source of income that is allowed. So we have done so many things together in terms of businesses, and we're still doing it. So back to our topic.
advertisement.
My neighbor admit said I've done that, but I didn't do advertising. I'm only encouraging others to be like him, so that they will not say because I'm a medical doctor I won't do business. Back to our topic. I want us to please listen attentively, because he has equally sent the lecture before today, and I've looked at it. It's a very interesting lecture. You see his level of training both in medicine and in Islamic works, reflecting in his topic. So permit me to hand over the microphone to Dr. Muhammad Olawale Abiola to take us through our topic today. The topic is living a healthy life, Islamic and scientific facts.
Assalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. The title of my lecture today is Living a Healthy Life, Islamic and Scientific Facts. Now, as Muslims, Allah in the Quran and also the Prophets encourage us one thing: knowledge. So whatever we want to do in our life, either for this world or the hereafter, the first thing we need to know, or to have a back of mind, that we should have to get the adequate and the right knowledge about it. So inshallah, in this topic, I will take us through the background of what health is, what diseases are, or what a disease is, then the different facts from the scientific point of view, and how Islam has also taught us to live a healthy life. I will first start by introducing us to what the concept of health. Then I'll also mention some evidences from the Quran that for us to realize that this health we are talking about is a child from Allah, and also if you fall sick is also a child from Allah. So whichever category you are going to fall, which you will definitely fall into one throughout your lifespan, you should know that at that moment you are facing a child from Allah. Then also I'll explain the concept of disease, because when you understand how a disease happens or what causes a disease, it helps you to protect yourself from disease and it makes you know what to do when you are suffering from a disease. Then I want to talk about mental and social health. This is one aspect of health that over time people have neglected, but now it has been realized that this is a very fundamental part of human health. So if you concentrate on your physical health and you neglect your mental and social health, it's as good as zero. And I also talked about, so I'll give us some supplications for health from the Sunnah, and also the role of tahajjud. I know people are wondering how come I'm bringing tahajjud to health. Inshallah, we shall know why, inshallah. Now, so what is health? According to WHO, that is the World Health Organization, health is defined as a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not just the absence of disease or infirmity. That is, there are three things that must be complete for you to say you are healthy: your physical health, your mental health, and your social health. And you not say because I don't have any disease or because I don't have any form of impairment, then I'm healthy. No, those three things must be there. Now, so what are the dimensions of health? From the definition, it shows that health is not just what most people think about, that just the physical. Once I'm physically active and all, then that means I'm healthy. The other aspect of it is the physical, the mental, the social. We also have the spiritual health, which the scientists are trying to put in now. Then the emotional health, which is tied to the physical health. Then the vocational health, that's the job you do. For example, if you don't have a job, it's going to affect you. So that itself is a form of health. And if you are doing a job you are not enjoying, it's also going to affect you. So these are concepts that are being looked into. And like I highlighted there, the most common mistake that we make is that people concentrate only on their physical health and neglect other aspects of their health. Now, so what are the determinants of health? What determines how healthy you are? Or what makes someone healthy? What are the things that affect someone in such that will determine whether you'll be healthy at a particular point or you'll be sick at a particular point? So we have the biological determinants. The biological determinant has to do with your own biological makeup. There's some organisms in your environment that cause these diseases, like the viruses and the parasites and all. The biological makeup, in the sense that what we call the genetics, the gene, how you have been inherently created, the way Allah has created you. Each of us has a way that we have been coded, and makes some of us more susceptible to certain diseases, while some people are kind of resistant to those diseases. Then also your lifestyle, the kind of lifestyle you live. Are you the type that takes alcohol and smokes cigarettes? Are you the type that does not rest? And also all those things also affect your health. Then the environment you live in, if your environment is polluted, is dirty, or you inhale all these toxic fumes, this current world that we have, that technology is giving us cars and all, then we inhale all these exhaust fumes and all. And now scientists are trying to modify all those forms of technology in order not to affect our health in the wrong way. Then your socio-economic status, your educational level, your financial capability. We know that people that are more educated, because of the knowledge they have, they tend to stay more healthy than those who don't have the knowledge. And people, of course, when you are financially capable, you'll be able to attend to certain things that you need to attend to. Then finally, the health services in your community. That is where the government or the leadership comes into place, providing hospitals and the likes. So all these things put together are what determine if you are going to be healthy or you fall ill at any time. Now, like we said, being healthy, because it has the mental and social aspects, aside from the physical part, it's not the responsibility of just one person. For example, if you want to do sanitation, you cannot just say, "Oh, I'm Superman, I want to do the sanitation of all this." You still need the input of the people in your environment. Then also in the social and mental health, you need the members of your community. So you should know that the responsibility of us is not just you alone. It is you as an individual, the community, the state, that is those governing that community, then the international, that's where the likes of the World Health Organization and the UNICEF come in. And like I said, in whichever situation you find yourself, either you are ill or you are sick, you should know it's a trial from Allah. And what's the evidence from this? Allah said in Surah Al-Baqarah, in the last verse of the time He said, Summa latus alunna yawma'idhin anil na'im. He said, on that day, you shall be asked about the delights. So those delights include your health, your money, your fame, anything that made you happy while you were in health, Allah will ask you. So don't say, "Oh, because I'm healthy, it means I'm Allah's best friend." No, it's not. Because you're healthy is nothing to tell you your status inside of Allah. It only tells you that it's a trial from Allah and you have to use it appropriately. What another evidence? Prophet ﷺ said that health and free time are what? That blessings that people use for doing good. We know that when you are not healthy, it's the kind of ibadah that you can do is restricted. But when you are not free, also the time of ibadah you can do is also restricted. So in every part of our life, when we find that we have health or we are healthy and we have free time, we should try as much as possible to use it to worship Allah, because those are two blessings that we should take care of. Now, like I said, illness is also a trial. So what Allah said in the Quran, Allah said He sent messengers to many prophets before you, to many nations before you, and He seized them with extreme poverty and loss of wealth, so that they might believe with humility. So whatever situation, when the calamity comes, Allah also said in other verses of the Quran that we shall test you with loss of life, loss of property. Allah said at the end of those verses that Baba should submit and you should be patient. So one of the reasons why Allah tests us with sickness is for us to turn to Him in humility. What's another evidence? Allah said in Surah Al-Anbiya, He said, "Kullu nafsin dha'iqatul maut." That is, every soul is going to die. If you are going to die, either you die maybe from an accident or from a disease, something must take you. Something must surely take your life. So we should know that Allah is going to test us with evil and with good. So it's for us as believers to use this appropriately. Another evidence. Now, I said earlier that when you have health, when you are healthy, it doesn't mean that you are Allah's best friend. Because you are believing most of your life doesn't mean that, oh, Allah loves me or anything. In fact, Allah said, the Prophet ﷺ said, the people who are tested the most severely are the prophets, then the righteous, then the next best, and then the next. So the more your trials are, it's a sign that you are close to Allah. It's a sign. So that's why you notice there is no single prophet of Allah that Allah did not test. And we all know the story of Prophet Ayub that was tested with these most severe forms of affliction, and he persevered, and Allah saved him. Even the prophet, when he was about to die, his health still deteriorated before Allah eventually took his life. Another evidence said, the Prophet ﷺ said, a man will be tested according to the level of religious commitment. The stronger his religious commitment, the more severe his test will be. That's similar to the hadith we just said. Then one thing that we should know, that at that point when we are being tested with illness, is actually a blessing from us. Because the Prophet ﷺ said that there is no believer that is stricken with discomfort, hardship, illness, grief, or even mental worry, that even though it's a form of mental illness, except that Allah will forgive his sins. So you should know that no matter the calamity that afflicts you, as long as you are patient and you persevere and you don't do any form of haram during that period, Allah is going to use you to wipe off your sins. Now, so what is disease? We talked about what is health. Well, the WHO, that's the World Health Organization, did not define disease. Disease is just opposite of health. So once you are not in the state of physical or mental or social well-being, then you can be sent to have a disease. Now, so how is a disease caused? It's important for us to have an idea. Though this is more for scientists, but for us to just have an idea that all these different interventions that scientists bring up is based on some principles. So if as laymen we understand those principles, we may still appreciate how to prevent ourselves from falling ill. So the first theory initially was what they call the germ theory of disease. I know people hear germs that don't call germ. So initially, the concept of causing disease is that once the germ comes to somebody or a human being comes in contact with germ, a disease springs up. But later it was realized that it's not just a germ coming, you being in contact with a germ that will cause disease. There are other things that also, whether you fall ill or not. So that's why it came about with the epidemiological triad. That is, there are three things that work hand in hand to determine whether you fall ill. One, the agent, that is the agents causing disease, would be the viruses or things in your environment like poisonous chemicals, anything that can cause the disease itself. The host, that is you as a human being. Then the environment, the kind of environment you live. So the environment either strengthens you to withstand the effects of those agents, or the environment weakens you for you to be vulnerable to those agents. So those three things interact. So that's why in different measures that the scientists make in making us healthy, it revolves around this thing. Then the more recent concept like the multifactorial causation and web of causation, what I'm just saying there is that, and there are some diseases that is not just one thing that cause it. For example, someone that has maybe a heart, cardiac, what we call cardiovascular disease, which I'll talk about later. There are a lot of things that can cause it. If you have hypertension, they are smoking, they are taking alcohol, so all these different things, and you have the genetic predisposition to developing this, and you now put all those things together. When they interact, it makes you develop that disease. And at the same time, if you remove one of those causative factors, it can protect you. So that's what those principles are all about. Now, so how is a disease prevented? Of course, if you want to stay healthy, you have to prevent disease. Now, there is what we call the natural history of disease. That is how the disease happens. We have what we call the pre-pathogenesis. Pathogenesis just essentially means when the disease condition, the mode of the disease itself has started. So the pre-pathogenesis that before the disease starts, while pathogenesis means that the disease has started itself. So as doctors, we look at what three forms of prevention. We have the primary prevention, secondary prevention, and tertiary prevention, and we target each of these phases. So for the pre-pathogenesis, that is before the disease starts, we adopt what we call the primary prevention, which I'm going to talk about later. Then when the disease has started, we adopt what we call the secondary and the tertiary prevention. Now, so what are these preventions I'm talking about? Now, for the primary prevention, before the disease starts, we have two major headings that we should use. The health promotion, that is things to promote you being healthy. This includes education, your nutrition, your lifestyle. So when you are being educated on how to live a healthy life, things that you should do, not to make you fall into having disease, and all the activities you do to prevent the disease from starting. That's what we call the primary prevention. Now the secondary prevention is that disease has started already, but we are trying to stop it or to arrest the disease at where it is. So we now have the early diagnosis and treatment. That is, the disease should be picked up on time, because the earlier a disease is picked up, the better the prognosis. But if the disease, for one reason or the other, will not be picked up on time, then we now have disability, limitation, and rehabilitation. So we just try to reduce the effect of what the disease has caused, and in some cases we try to return the person to his initial state. Now, like health promotion, this is more important for us here, because most of us are not in the medical field. So this is what we are going to take home. Well, like I said at the beginning of the lecture, that whatever you want to do in life, the Quran and the Sunnah has emphasized that you should always seek for knowledge. So, for us to live a healthy life, health education is paramount. And it's not just education from anybody. That people don't be telling you all these roadside herbalists that just give you anything and just be telling you staphylococcus cause this, staphylococcus cause that. No, you get the information from the right sources, from the medical doctors or from trusted websites or trusted articles, for you to know how to live a healthy life. The environmental modification, that is your environment, you keep your environment, you sanitize your environment, take away harmful things and things like that. Nutritional interventions, you eat healthy diet, eat the right things at the right time, which I'm going to talk about later. The lifestyle modifications, you stop alcohol, you engage in physical activity, and you avoid things like cigarettes and that. Now, so as doctors, how do we classify diseases? So there are two major categories we classify diseases into: the communicable or infectious, which means that communicable means it can be gotten from one person to the other. That is, me as this person, I can pass it to the next person, or an animal can pass it to me and the likes. Why not communicable is that I can't pass it to the next person. For example, if somebody has cancer, even if I sit beside the person, I eat from the same place, he can't give me cancer. The only way cancer can be spread maybe genetics, but that is not communicable. It's just genetics that okay, it's in the family line. But there are other diseases like malaria, sexually transmitted infections, cholera, typhoid. Those are communicable, can be passed from one person to the other. So those are what we call the communicable or infectious diseases. Now, so for the communicable diseases, this is the process by which we fall prey to it. We have what we call the reservoir, where those organisms are. Remember I said at the beginning about the biological factor, that some organisms that cause all these diseases. So we have reservoir, we have the human reservoir, we have the animal reservoir, and we have inanimate reservoir. So this is where these organisms stay. For example, HIV, the reservoir for HIV is the human being. The reservoir for tetanus is the soil, inanimate objects. The reservoir for rabies is the dog. So from the reservoir, we have the mode of transmission. There are different modes of transmission, which I'll talk about later, through air droplets, through contact, through inoculation, I'll talk about later. Then it gets to the host. So these are the reservoirs, like I mentioned earlier, the human, animal, and so how are infectious diseases transmitted? We have what we call the direct transmission, and this involves direct contact, as sexually transmitted diseases. If somebody has sexually transmitted, you cannot be transferred through the air. For example, if you pick up gonorrhea and say because I was sitting there where somebody has gonorrhea and now cough that has gonorrhea, that's not possible. You must have had a sexual contact with that person for you to have it. They also know about Ebola, which is contracted through fluids, direct contact. They have the ones that through droplet infection. Those ones are in the hair, like tuberculosis, pneumonia, all those air infections are gotten through the air. Then contact with the soil, like tetanus. I mentioned that. Then inoculation into the skin. That is, those organisms has a way of penetrating into the skin. For example, rabies. When the dog bites you, it transmits that virus into you. In case of malaria, the main mosquito bites you, transmits the disease into you. Then we have placenta. What I'm just saying is that this one is from mother to child. The mother has the infection, and through the placenta, it goes to the baby. So example is the baby. That's why when women do for antenatal, we usually screen them for some disease and give them some vaccine and like so as not to affect the baby. Now the indirect transmission, that's what we call the 5Fs. The flies, that's insects, and fingers, termites are inanimate objects. Food, then fluid. Those are the indirect objects. For example, if the cholera is transmitted through the house line, if you leave your food open, house line comes there and perches on it, it's can transmit. Then the fingers, the fingers are easy source. Once your hand is contaminated, that's why the Prophet encourages us that we should always wash our hands in several situations. I'm still going to bring evidences from the Sunnah for that. Then for the food, if your food is contaminated and you eat it, you can get that. Then the fluid, that's like the seminal fluid or saliva, there are some diseases that are transmitted to the fluid. Now, so based on this knowledge that we have, how do we now curtail them? The one principle is controlling the survival. I mentioned earlier that we have three survivors: the human, the animal, the inanimate. So these are the principles. Most of these are scientific, but just for you to know that most of what we do is based on this principle. The early diagnosis, for example, I'm sure you're hearing about Lassa fever, yellow fever, Ebola. So once you tell them that there's notification that when you hear or you know somebody that knows about it, inform certain bodies, they will make. So it's just this principle. You need to know when there's a disease outbreak on time. You notify the appropriate bodies. They make some investigation. Then isolation. I'm sure we are familiar during the Ebola period. There are some people that were infected. That they put them in a certain room and strict people come to them and you want to go there, put some special gowns. So that process is called isolation. It's to prevent the disease from being communicated. Then some also other diseases too that we are supposed to do isolate the patient, but of course like chickenpox, though it's not as deadly as Ebola, but the standard principle is that when a child or somebody has chickenpox, you just stay away from others so you don't give them. Then the treatment, you treat them. The quarantine, this quarantine has a very important principle, which even the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam told us about. I'm going to bring the hadith much later in the presentation. Quarantine simply means that you limit the freedom of movement of people in a place that there is an epidemic. So if there is an outbreak of cholera in this environment, then nobody comes in, nobody goes out till that disease subsides, and that is one principle usually applied for most of our epidemics like the Ebola, the Lassa fever, and the like. So another principle is we break the chain of transmission. Hygiene, very important. If you can take care of hygiene, you can take more than 50% of infectious diseases just by focusing on hygiene. And this hand washing, adequate cooking. Remember we said that some of these things are transmitted to the food. So when you cook these foods properly, it kills these germs and reduces the spread of infection. Now chastity, I put that in there because now we're living in a time where chastity is not seen as a big deal. But chastity is very important to spread of disease. As of last year, there was a new sexually transmitted disease. I've forgotten the name now. It was a new organism. And God has already told us that when there is zina, equivalence of zina, you've seen diseases that your forefathers have not come across. I know people in the relationship when I use a condom, you're fine. But for you to know, human papillomavirus cannot 100% be prevented with the condom because even the parts that the condom does not cover, it can still transmit it to your partner. So if you are feeling you use condom, I'm safe. Just know that HPV that's what causes cervical cancer in the women. So, and in the HIV, the principle of HIV prevention, we talk about the ABC, abstinence, be faithful, there is condom. But Islam, all this A and B. Yeah, it's either you abstain to get married. When you get married, you are faithful. Even though you are more than one person married, you are not advocating it, but don't go and give your wife what you want to. Okay, so if you don't give your partner money just because you want to play around, you understand? So just be faithful, and if you want to add, but do it legal, let them probably know. So if anything happens, you know this is the person that bought you, and it's within us that this thing came from. So chastity is very important. You should not just put it on that. And finally, destruction of vectors. There are still some a lot of concepts we adopt, but these laws they build something. And the next thing is the oath that you as the human being, what are the things we do to protect you from these diseases? We have the what we call vaccination. You know, we are familiar with a lot of this when the child is giving birth, the BCG, the arm, the DPC. Our mothers know this very well. I don't know if the fathers will have idea, because the mothers don't know it more. So there are certain ages when we give vaccines. Then I mentioned about the human papilloma virus. Our mothers can still get that. Can still get the vaccine to prevent you from cervical cancer. It's one of the causes that has been established for cervical cancer, so you can get vaccinated for that. Then we have the hepatitis B virus vaccine. It causes liver cancer, or it has been shown to cause liver cancer. So we have some vaccines that prevent some diseases. Then chemical prophylaxis just means that certain drugs that you use specifically to protect you against certain infections. For example, we have some drugs to prevent you from having malaria like proguanil. It's not the artemether. Artemether is not chemical prophylaxis. There are certain drugs that specifically when you are exposed to a particular infection for it, before you develop it, we tell you to use those drugs. Then the non-specific measures are better housing, adequate ventilation. For example, in order to prevent TB, that's tuberculosis. We say that the environment should be well, the living conditions should be well elevated. They should not overcrowd a particular location. Then the nutrition, the water supply, ensure that you have clean potable water and the like. So there's other measures we also use to prevent this. Now, what are the evidences from the sunnah? Like Prophet said, and this is a very common hadith, Atuhu Shatu Iman. So this is longer than that. But that first part is an important principle in prevention of infectious disease, cleanliness. That's why the Prophet, in that time, there's points that if it could make us, if not like body some for us, we can't just use swag every time. That's the benefit. So all those things, when you have your sexual intercourse, you do your ghusl, before ablution, before you pray, before you eat, you wash your hand. When you come out from the toilet, you wash your hand. All those things have a way of preventing diseases. Another evidence, the Prophet said that when one of you wakes up from sleep, he should wash his hand 3 times before putting his hand in any utensil, because he does not know where his hand was during the night. There was the story of a particular, I don't know, like calling a companion, a man that this hadith was said to him, and he mocked it. He just chewed it and said, "What are you saying?" And the next thing he found out that the guy's hand was inside his nose. So you can imagine that kind of person, just if maybe his hand, if I not punishing to make his hand his nose, you are just woken up from sleep and just put his hand inside food, and just get an infection you're not supposed to get. Another thing, Paul said that whoever spends the night with grease on his hand, I said you eat finish and you don't wash your hand well, whatever happens to you, that is happy, because we had to chop your hand. I know people that some of us that are body dance, I know you have had some experiences where this lads come and feed your feet at night and all. So it's to prevent certain things like this. As I always said, before you eat, before you sleep, ensure your hands are clean. That nothing, no oily food or anything that will not make things like that attack you while you're sleeping. Now another principle, Paul said that we should eat with our right hand. And we should also drink with our right hand. This principle is important because the Prophet said what? When we go to the toilet, we should clean with what? Our left hand. Now if you look at that, the principle there is breaks the transmission of disease. Because no matter how you wash your hand, except you want to pour acid or something on your hand, there will still be some pathogens on your left hand. That is not you want to do it. There will still be some pathogens on your left hand. So if your right hand is dedicated for food, while your left hand is dedicated to clean up with something, you know that the chances of you transmitting infections gotten from physics into you is low. So that principle the Prophet has given us long ago. Now, Allah said in the Quran, Allah take care of zina. Innahu kana fahishatan wa sa'a sabila. We cannot overemphasize this. For you to prevent sexually transmitted diseases, That's the only way. Like I said earlier, condom cannot protect you from everything. So quarantine, I mentioned this even before scientists looked into the report that Eddie told us. At the time, Umar wanted to visit Sham, they met Abraham bin Auf at a place called Sodom, and he told him that there's a disease, and the prophet has told us that when there's an outbreak of a disease, you should not go there, and people that are there should not come out. So Umar went back, and this principle is what we still apply to today. And Prophet Sallallahu told his companions not to go. Now, destruction of vectors. Now, there are some disease kind organisms that we have to kill. Now, I got this hadith because even in the state of Ihram, you know, when in the state of Ihram, that's a pilgrim. When you're in that state, you are not allowed to kill animals. But there are some organisms or some animals the prophet said you should kill, even in that state. And these are what scorpions, rats, mouse, cows, guys, and white. These white ones are what cause rabies. The rats now, you know, rats cause Lassa fever. The mice also have some diseases which I cannot remember right now. So why I brought this is that even at that state, you can still kill some vectors. But outside the state of Islam, any animal or any organism or any insect that has been shown to cause diseases, you kill them. Now, another principle, the Prophet ﷺ said that when a dog licks your utensil, like if a dog puts him out or plate or something, you should wash it 7 times. One hadith says you should wash the 4th time with sand, while another one says the last time with sand. But the most important thing is that during the course of washing, you must wash it with sand. Because it has shown recently that the particular, I'm not sure if it's the rabies virus, there's a particular virus that sticks to the utensil that you need a form of apparition to remove. And God already told us this, Now, use of medications. I said at the beginning that illness is a trial, and not just a trial. Some people can say, okay, because Allah decided to test me, and of course, He's going to forgive my sin, I don't want to use drugs. No. The Prophet has told us to use drugs. Now, there are some mischievous so-called afars that twist death hadiths, and the Prophet said, catch open. I don't know the reason. They will not tell you to go and bring stuff for rituals and all. That's not what the Prophet said. Because of this hadith, the Prophet told the Sahaba that make use of medical treatment and said the only disease that does not have a cure is what? Old age. And there's some hadiths where it was shown that the Prophet used drugs. There's one particular hadith that they forced the Prophet to use a particular drug. So when he was better, now Aisha and Co. Now saying that why did you force me to use the drug? They now say, oh, they thought so because normally people don't like drug. So he scolded them, but the importance from that hadith that the Prophet used drugs. And there's also a hadith which I'm going to mention where the Prophet referred somebody to a particular person that gives drugs. Okay, so similar to the first hadith that we should treat ourselves medically, but we should not use anything that is haram. So there's nothing like there's one I go, you just put small dry gin, and you just to cure ourselves. No. There's still some hadiths later when the Prophet expressly prohibited anything that is unlawful or anything that is intoxicant. We cannot use it in our medicine. I know there is still going to be this argument or this question. Okay, some certain compounds that we doctors use have alcohol. There are 2 kinds of alcohol: the alcohol, the intoxicant alcohol, and the chemical compound. The alcohol and the chemical compound might cause the alcohol and the intoxicant, but there are some substances which we don't take. We don't use them for intoxication sake. They just have these preservative properties. They don't have the ability to make it intoxicant, but they fall under the chemical class of alcohol, so you should not mix it. So when we are talking about use alcohol, these are the intoxicants. So this is another hadith that says that we should not use any medicine that is unclean. Then this hadith, okay, someone specifically asked the Prophet about wine. Because some people feel that okay, when you take alcohol, some form of alcoholic substances, it can cure you. The Prophet said that alcohol is a disease. So alcohol is not a cure for anything. Initially, even in the medical world, they were telling us that when you take alcohol, moderate consumption of alcohol is highly protective. And that late last year, maybe October or so, it was said that no level of alcohol is considered safe. So even in the medical world now, no level of alcohol is considered safe. So initially they were saying it was highly protective, but there's nothing like that anymore. So another hadith. Now this hadith where the Prophet referred somebody to a particular person that treats in medicine. He said he told him to go to a particular man and give his medical treatment. He said he should take 7 actual dates, grind them with candle, put them in the mouth. So this is an evidence of the kind of medicine that the Prophet was talking about, and not the ritualistic stuff those so-called affairs tell us. So in the book of Hadith, there are numerous examples, and even from prophetic medicine, that's not the scope of this lecture. Now, we thought that the first thing I talked about was just infectious diseases. The concept, we explained the concept and how they can be prevented, and I brought evidences to that. Now, the non-communicable disease, like I explained earlier, that if somebody beside you has that disease, there is no how it's going to be transmitted from you. So I just picked 3 that are common. There are a lot of them that are not restricted to this way. So the cardiovascular, cardio means heart, vascular means blood vessels. So when you get cardiovascular, the heart and the blood vessels. So diseases that have to do with the heart and the blood vessels, like what ischemic heart disease. Ischemia means reduction of the blood supply. That is when the blood supply is reduced to the heart dies off. So that things like myocardial infarction, popular heart attack, then hypertension, and then everybody has said hypertension, elevated blood pressure, hypertension, then stroke. When there is a compromise to the blood supply to the brain, either because the blood vessel bursts or it becomes blocked by something, you can develop a stroke. And the cancer is abnormal division, rapidly division of cells. For example, the way we are now, these cells on the floor, for one reason or the other, you should just start increasing the number. Before you know this one will be filled. That means this one will be rendered useless. Because normally the tiles are there, they're making the place beautiful. It's supposed to be there. But for one reason or the other, they're increasing the numbers and just take over the room. And they will not stop from there. They see them going to distant places. They go to the compound, start increasing the number, then they can now infiltrate the wall. Before you know it, destruction takes place. So that's what cancer cells do. They are cells of the body which are there, but for one reason or the other, they just stop obeying the normal law and start rapidly dividing. So they can be cancer of anything as long as it's a cell of the body. Then diabetes, there are 2 types of diabetes, but diabetes I'm talking about is diabetes mellitus. That's what we call the diabetes insipidus. So now, for this non-communicable disease, there are some things that are common to them that makes people predisposed to them. One is cigarette use and other forms of smoking. Now, people always think it's not just cigarettes. Even cigarettes, cannabis, that's your weed, shisha, anything that is smoking can predispose you to any of this. Alcohol abuse. Alcohol is, like God said, a disease. That hardly any non-communicable disease that alcohol is not a culprit. It's rare for you to find one, especially the cancer cells and the cardiovascular diseases. Alcohol is always a culprit. The failure of inability to obtain preventive health services, like I said, okay. We said about early detection and prompt treatment. Some of these services are supposed to help us detect some of these things early before they cause a lot of damage. So that's where the government comes in, like providing hospitals, the making awareness, like all these centers for screening, cancer screening, blood, hypertension screening, and the likes. The lifestyle changes. As a Muslim, you can't live a sedentary lifestyle, not just do anything and still be. You're going to be going to diseases, even from a scientific point of view. Then the dietary pattern, I'm going to bring some hadith as we're going on this conversation about physical activity and the dietary patterns. Then the environmental risk factor, that is in your environment, like there are some chemicals that are known to cause cancer and to alter the way we live or alter our body cells that predispose us to some of these diseases. The stress factors. Naturally, there are 2 hormones, that the adrenaline, which is called the fight or flight hormone, and the cortisol hormone. I like to tell them that when you're in certain situations, when you're under stress, to just help your body to just live, to adjust to that stress, they make you more active and make more glucose available. But if the stress factors are there most of the time, then those hormones will now be there most of the time and will start disrupting itself in the body system and can cause some of these diseases. So now, the cardiovascular diseases. So what can we do to prevent the cardiovascular disease I mentioned earlier? Now, reduction in the fat intake. We not say don't take fat at all, because fat is necessary a balanced diet. I'm not saying don't take fat, but you have to reduce it. It should not be more than 20 to 30% of your meal. Now, there are two kinds of fat, what we call the saturated and the unsaturated. For layman level, most of the saturated fats are the animal fats, red meat, cheese, milk, that's saturated. Why the unsaturated are the vegetable oil, the ones you find in plants, vegetable oil, the nut oil, and the likes. So those ones you can take more of that. Not as you can take the saturated fat, but it should not be more than 10%. Then you should increase the consumption of complex carbohydrates. Now, what makes this the benefit of this kind of food is that because they are complex and have other nutrients like vitamins and minerals, unlike simple carbohydrates, which when you just take like your normal refined sugar or milk, when you just take it, it breaks down easily and glucose is available, the body uses it up and it's gone. But this one stay. They give you, as the body is being broken down, they give you other sources of nutrients that are necessary for the body, and at the same time they help balance the system. And alcohol again, avoid smoking. And physical activity. Physical activity doesn't necessarily mean you should go to the gym and start lifting heavy objects. It's not necessary. You can just do what we call brisk walking for 15 minutes. Just walk some distance that will take you from 15 minutes. And if you are the type that maybe at office, maybe you need to go to some places, not everywhere you bike or you drive to. Anywhere you know you can walk. Except maybe you have a child teacher. I know some people have a child teacher, I know to walk long distance, but those that can do it, anywhere you feel you can walk, you should try as much as possible to be walking. Not that you walk very long distance and say, I know, just something like 15 minutes, maybe twice a week is okay. Then reduce your salt, but I'm not saying don't take salt because salt is important. Because salt has been implicated in hypertension. It has increased. So remember during the Ebola period, where there was this rumor that if you take plenty salt, that it protects you from, and at the end of the day, that's why we said knowledge is important. Because of the false knowledge that was spread, a lot of the salt rumor killed more people than the Ebola. The salt rumor killed more people than the Ebola because some people that were hypertensive already just took high doses of salt and just had complications. So you just reduce your salt intake, and for those that are hypertensive, I'm sure the hospitals will have told you that. Now for cancer, these are the things that can cause cancer. Like I said earlier, alcohol will always be there. See, tobacco, that's your cigarette. Then now dietary, I know people are saying some things then that will start making them say, I smoke fish, so I can't get cancer. See, the truth about cancer is that almost anything can cause cancer. Almost, I'm not saying everything, almost, especially the kind of food we eat that we modify one way or the other. But the only thing is to cut down, moderate our consumption of all those modified kind of food. Now, for the smoked fish that causes stomach cancer, the stomach cancer is found in the Japanese, and it also been found that those with blood group A are predisposed to having stomach cancer. So maybe there's an association with that makes them predisposed. You know, say, oh, I heard a lecture that smoked fish causes over, and nobody smoked fish. If you want to, it's just reduce, but no, it causes. But if you say that you don't want to have cancer, you don't end up not eating anything. It's almost everything that implicated on the So leave for bowel cancer, the dietary fiber, this dietary fiber we encourage it, but at the same time, it can cause cancer in some people. So you can see why I said that cancer is almost anything can cause it. Then fat, the high fat diet, fat is not good. Excessive consumption of fat is not good. The proportional exposure, there's some chemicals in the environment. That's why we have in every industry there's a health or safety officer that tell them that okay, certain measures should be taken, use certain protective equipment like cover like mask and all, because there's some things that people in the industries that expose people to cancer, like asbestos, benzene, and the likes. The viruses, the HIV causes the Kaposi sarcoma, the hepatitis B virus causes liver cancer, the human papilloma virus causes the cervical cancer. Then the parasites, things like schistosomiasis. Schistosomiasis, and if you have schistosomiasis, that's one of the parasites that affects the bladder, that can make you have bladder cancer. And there are some other medications too. I don't know if you got a particular WhatsApp message recently talking about some certain hypertensive drugs. There are some chemicals we added. The radiation too has been indicated. Now, one major thing with cancer is genetic. If you have a family history, genetic history of Okay, if you have a family history of genetic history of a form of cancer, then it's very high likely that someone in the family is going to get it. So those kind of people are going to take extra measures to ensure they don't develop cancer. So diabetic mellitus genetics again, if you have family history of diabetes, just take measures. Now some people say when you take a lot of sugar, you have diabetes. That's not it. If you take a lot of sugar, it predisposes you if you have the tendency of having it. But it's not that sugar itself causes diabetes. Diabetes is caused by inadequate insulin. That's what we call insulin in the body. It's a hormone that takes up the glucose in the body and makes it available for the cells. So if the glucose cannot be available from the cell, it will just be accumulating in the system and cause issues. For example, if you are a rich man or something, or let's say you are in a house or someone that does not know how to drive a car, and you now supplying with a car that is manual gear. If like give him 50 cars inside his compound, as long as he cannot drive, the cars will not move. And you just this guy is not moving. Okay, maybe he needs more cars, and now parking more cars. At the end of the day, it's going to cause issues for him because he cannot drive the car. So that's what's happening in diabetes. In some other instances, we have what we call the receptors, the cells. There are some receptors, some things on the surface of the cell that make them sensitive to insulin. That insulin we're talking about can pick it up. For example, someone that cannot drive a manual car, even though you can drive automatic, if you cannot drive manual, then now you can move it. You have to learn how to drive manual to move manual. So if you don't have those insulin sensitive, even though the insulin is there, if the cells don't have, if there are no insulin sensitive receptors, then there's going to be problems with taking that glucose. So the accumulation of glucose in the body, which is supposed to be a beneficial stuff, that now causes the cancer in the individual. So sedentary lifestyle, like we said earlier, we have to be physically active. Anywhere you can walk there, just try to, not necessarily you pick lift heavy object. And high saturated fat intake, we talked about saturated fat earlier. Malnutrition, you have to balance your diet, like you explained earlier, take more complex carbohydrates, reduce your fat intake and the likes. Alcohol again, always there. Then viruses, okay, I've shown that certain viruses and certain chemical agents. Then stress, because we said the cortisol increases glucose in the body, and that could also predispose. Now it's encouraged to take dietary fiber. This is your vegetables, your fruits, your legumes, granola, beans, and all. They have fibers. It's encouraged. They reduce the risk. That's why I put this again. They reduce the risk of diabetes. So how do you guard against communicable diseases? So this is the summary of all those diseases, how to prevent them. So if you look at the last thing, I mentioned fasting. This is a new concept that was discovered by Japanese, what's the name? Usrah or something, I can't remember. He discovered that there's a process in the cell, in the body, called autophagy. Autophagy means that the cell eats itself. I don't know how to put it in layman's term. There are some ways that this way the cells are. Some cells that after some time they die off, and there are some cells that now pick it up, move all those so they remove it from the system. So that process was discovered that there are certain ailments that process was very useful for. Some cancers, I think rheumatoid arthritis, some non-communicable diseases. So it's discovered that fasting, it tested the rats, and some rats were exposed to fasting for like 14 hours a day about. I was discovered that the rate of autophagy was increased. Now, because we said fasting is a measure, does not mean prolonged fast. It must be not the 40 days dry fast that they do. No, just like the one Islam recommended us to do. You stay off food for a while, and that process of autophagy occurs, and it helps even to fight cancer. So that process is being studied, and are trying to create some drugs that are going to enhance the process. But Allah and His Prophet has already given us this some years ago that we should fast. Allah said in Surah An-Nahl that كل مما رزقكم الله حلالا طيبا واشكروا نعمة الله إن كنتم إياه تعبدون. Allah said, eat the lawful and good food which Allah has provided for you, and be grateful for Allah's favor if it is Him you worship. Now Allah said lawful and good. He did not just say eat anything. So the first thing, you must ascertain that the food you are going to eat is lawful. At the same time, you must ascertain that that food is good or is beneficial before a Muslim consumes it.
The Prophet now said something. Remember, we talked about nutrition. The Prophet ﷺ said, the Muslim eats in one intestine, which means that a Muslim eats little food. A Muslim is not a glutton. You have to watch the kind of food you eat. Why the Prophet said that while the kafir eats in 7 intestines, I think the kafir eats too much. Even notice most of the non-communicable diseases mention the nutrition. That is, people that are obese, people that have excess fat are predisposed to a lot of those non-communicable diseases. That's why as Muslims, we must be moderate in our consumption of food. Now, Allah said in the Quran that ya ayyuhallazina amanu la taqtulu amwalakum bil-batil illa an takunu bajaratan an taradin minkum wa la taqtulu anfusakum innallaha bikum rahima. So the end of that verse, Allah says, do not kill yourselves, for surely Allah is most merciful to you. So once you know that certain things are harmful to you, certain things are going to predispose you to certain diseases, then as a Muslim, you must ensure you don't do this. Now, there is this misconception, or I like to call it, about people that take cigarette. They said, after all, is alcohol Allah forbid? The Prophet did not forbid cigarettes, and they keep taking it. But now it has been shown that cigarettes causes a lot of cancer. So if that cigarette should eventually cause something that harms you or something that kills you, then know that you are killing yourself and you are going to be accountable for it in the sight of Allah. Okay, now, so what we've discussed earlier, all the things we have been discussing, had to do with the physical aspect. Remember at the beginning of the lecture, I said the most common mistake we make is the concentrating on the physical and neglecting the mental and social. Now, in my own training, I deal more with mental health, but today is not the day to talk so much about it. So let me just give us a summary. Now, according to psychologists, there are certain features that makes one know that it's mentally healthy. So the first thing is when you are not at war with yourself. That is, you are not at war with yourself, you are not in a state of conflict. There's something that is common with people that have depression. They have this guilt, worthlessness, they blame themselves for things that happen to them. So when you are not excessively critical, you don't excessively criticize yourself and feel like a failure, then it's a sign. If you don't do that, it shows a sign that you're mentally ill. But once you start repeatedly questioning yourself, criticizing yourself, feeling you are the cause of all the things that have happened, of course, once in a while you criticize yourself to move better. But when you now turn it to like excessively, yes, that's the word. Then becomes a problem. And the second point is you accept criticism and not you shouldn't be upset. Maybe at the times that believe that you know it all, then you started exhibiting features of what we call narcissism. You feel you know it all. It's not possible. You can't know it all. So when you do something that is wrong and someone criticizes you, accept it and adjust it. Another thing is search for an identity. Alhamdulillah, as Muslims, Allah has shown us what to search for. Our identity is as Muslims. That means everything we do is towards maintaining our identity as Muslims. Then you have to know yourself. We are different individuals. Allah has created us in different ways. So, like the Bible says, so everybody is unique. For example, someone of my stature, I can't say I was going to play basketball. Like, so you know yourself. So you know yourself. You know your ability. It's like you don't want to change that. But I generally. Okay, so you know yourself. You know your ability. You know your weakness. You know your strength, so you work on it. So once you know that, it's a step to be mentally healthy. Then good self-control. You must balance between rationality and emotionality. We know that the male gender deals more with rationality, the female gender deals more with emotionality. That's why Allah has said we should marry to marry women half of it. That emotional aspect of them is important. So as Muslim, you must balance. It's not every time you show away the emotional side, and not every time you feel emotional. So you must know when to be rational, you must know when to be emotional. Another thing is that you must be able to solve problems intelligently. You face problems and solve them. Of course, there are some problems that may be beyond your power. You might just need to walk away. That's why you need to know yourself. So, but problems you can face, you solve them. Now, this is important for us as Muslims because now the world is turning towards an epidemic in mental health illness, especially depression. That's why we have a increased rate of suicide. Recently, I read the news a girl that committed suicide because her parents didn't like her or something. So this is very important. That's why as Muslims, please let's always remember this verse. That Allah says, "Allazina amanu wa tasma'u qulub bi zikrillah, Allah bi zikrillahi tasma'u." Allah says those who believe and whose hearts find rest in the remembrance of Allah, very remembrance of Allah. Remember we said that whatever happens to you as a Muslim is a child from Allah, and of course it's an expiation from you. So when we talk about zikr, we're not just talking about tasbih and tahmid. Not that we reflect about the signs of Allah, we reflect about the purpose that we created. If we reflect about people that have come past, what Allah asks us to do. Once you are sure that you are striving towards the please of Allah, whatever calamity that befalls you, it will be easy for you to deal with it. Most of people that have the question because this is missing in them. Now, like I said, the purpose of as Muslims, Allah has already told us. So whatever you are facing, why Allah created us is what to come and worship Him. So if you maybe lose all your money, or maybe you lose your house, are you worshiping Allah? If that aspect has been attained, so then you don't need to worry yourself. Yes, those things might affect you one way or the other, but always remember and turn back to Allah because God is important for your mental health. Now, prohibition of pride. Remember we said that you have to accept criticism. And what the Prophet said, who has an atom of pride will not enter the Jannah. Now we need to define what pride is. Like a particular companion, when he heard this hadith, he was scared because the kind of person that likes dressing well, that likes looking good. So when to meet the Prophet, I heard you said this. When I said no, the pride I'm talking about is disdaining the truth out of self-concern. He refused to accept the truth. That well, who is this small boy? I can't even tell him this. And what? Just looking down on poor people. So when you refuse to accept the truth out of pride and you look down on people, then that is the arrogance the Prophet is talking about. Once everyone has the mustard seed that is as tiny as it is, will not enter the Jannah. Now, al-haya, first al-haya will call you to modesty. You have to be modest in all your forms. Because when you are modest, you are humble, you are not extravagant in anything, your mind will be at rest. You know, because once you are modest, you don't have issues with anybody, your mind is at rest, so nothing is going to bother you. Now, so these are the examples of mental illness, but I'm not sure I have time to.
You don't.
Okay, so let me just. I highlighted three in red. These are the ones that cause the warfare and warfare. These three. The other ones might not have any role to play in those because the more of genetic, that is schizophrenia, the bipolar affecting disorders, and the like. But depression, substance abuse, and pathological gambling. Just many people. Or a few people are aware that I don't call pathological gambling. That one, the person only thinks about the gambling. Now we have a lot of sites for gambling in Nigeria now. So there will be a situation where those have an epidemic of pathological gambling. Then, so what are the features of mental illness? Now these things, I might need to dwell more on this so that we'll be able to identify people that have mental illnesses around us. Like I said, it's not all form of mental illness that is people's fault. There are some that are just because some people are weaker than others that genetically predisposed. Now when you start hearing voices of the unseen, that once in a while you might hear someone call your name and you won't see anybody. That happens once in a while. You know, man, I heard my name. No. But when it happens frequently, that just be hearing voices and you won't see it. So all those so-called spiritual people that they are saying they are hearing voices that people is talking to, people you need to check them for mental illness. People that you see someone that keeps talking to himself. Though once in a while, maybe when you are thinking, you talk to yourself. But people that have mental illness, that is this way, they just keep talking. You just see that they are replying to something. So it's because they are hearing some voices. That's why they reply. And these voices is actually from the brain. There are some chemicals in the brain that have been disrupted that causes them to hear those voices. They're seeing things that others cannot see. Then until with ability, that's when you notice that someone that usually things that will not make you angry, just getting angry because someone is Bible. No things that on a normal day would not have provoked him. I just noticed that I started getting angry. Then lots of interest in pleasurable activities. Someone that usually maybe enjoys playing football, enjoys all of this one, he just notice that he doesn't have interest in anything again. So that can be a sign of depression. Then prolonged sad mood is only sad. It's not that I'm sad for 2 hours and I'm depressed. No. When we're talking about prolonged sad mood, early in the morning the person is sad. So it gets better in the day, but most of the day for like 2 weeks. For like 2 weeks, we have this prolonged sad. Maybe I should pause for a while here. Then we'll talk the next section. We'll talk more about these features of mental health, what to do, and we'll end up with
social health and supplications for health. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Allahu Akbar. We have all enjoyed over 1.5 hours of him speaking to us. And we could see his mastery of balancing medicine with Islam. And this is the reason why we have said that no matter the field of your study, Islam must be part of what you know. So that when you are explaining any aspect, any field, you can infuse Islam into it. And this is what he has displayed this morning. We pray to Allah Azza wa Jalla to spare him for many, many more years to come for us, and to increase him abundantly in knowledge, and to let us have many more of him, such that all we come here to do is to listen to them. So, inshallah, he has delved into about 40 something slides, 45, and he still has up to 75 slides. So that is why I stop him. Inshallah, we are going to have part 2 of this. Inshallah, because like I told you, he has said this before, and I've looked at it. It's very, very comprehensive. It's something that a book can even be packaged for. So, and we must not allow his effort to go in vain. We have to listen to. So we schedule another time for him to come and give us the concluding part of his lecture.
How do we prevent this in our midst?
All right. Let's number 2.
You mentioned probably for malaria prevention. I want to ask, because I know SS patients take it. Are they going to take it from day 1 to their last day because of drug abuse? And then there are some AA patients that are prone to malaria. Can they be taking it as well?
Alright. I just want to know the position of Islam and medicine on the issue of local herbs and local medicine. Local medicine this time for Conqueror have removed that. But some of the leaves have roots, nuts, and the rest. What are the position of it?
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. In your explanation on the stress level, you probably just glossed over it. My clarification I think is how bad can it get, and when you start having stress, particularly with your nature of job, and it gets to high pulse level, how bad can the pulse level get, and how do you curtail it?
Yeah, assalamu alaikum. Through the course of your presentation, you mentioned something about aging. That aging has no cure. How do we manage your age in terms of health? Even though the Quran said it, as you are aging, you are reduced in your creation. Peaceful. But how do you manage aging that you also have a good
My lecturer, sir, when you were talking about the cancer issue, you mentioned that if it has a family history, I want
maybe our family has it. And secondly, my grandchildren want to enroll in your madrasa. Please, can I get the details of how to?
I want to ask the doctor, is it true that cancer disease is in every individual, but something that, an issue that will ignite it? That it is an issue that ignites it?
During the course of your lecture, you mentioned something about, I don't even know whether it's genotype or blood group AA having one kind of cancer. Please, can you expatiate?
Okay.
Then,
the prophetic message that you touch briefly are there ways that doctors have, in orthodox medicine, have confirmed the efficacy, the fact that they can be used by us. Okay, my second question, thank you, sir.
That's my own.
My five.
So we are not doing partial, giving him his own.
Now, the doctor also mentioned in his lecture eating, smoking, fishes. What about smoking smoked food, some other foods like corn, barley,
my question is linked to health, although it's not totally health, but because the presenter is also an ulama, I'm also presenting the question to him. Somebody that suffered from depression and ended up committing suicide. Is it right for the Islamic Ummah, the Muslim Ummah, to refuse the person janaza?
So the question, someone said does not agree that mentioned the offer. Is it by saying that the offer is, I mean, towards the later part of my lecture on mental health, I was going to talk about the causes of mental health. What we call the predisposing factor, predisposing factor, and predisposing factor. So predisposing is what happened in your early life, your genetics, or things that you went through in your early life. Precipitating are things that happened recently that made those things happen. Then you look at most cases of depression, there is always something that tilts them into it. And what makes them enter that phase, even though at the end of the day, the brain, the chemicals in the brain have become disturbed, but there is psychological precipitation. It's not that you just wake up and be depressed. No, there must be a stress factor that push people into it. So, but if you don't have this sekina that Allah has given Muslims, that's why it's difficult. You a Muslim can have depression, yes, but for you to now get to the depression and you now be contemplating suicide, no. Because once you know that whatever you face is from Allah, you will get out of it. Because, and again, I was going to talk about how we manage mental health. Unlike other aspects of medicine, in psychiatry, we adopt what we call the biopsychosocial model. We use drugs, we use the psychological part, and we use the social. That is, people around you are going to be part of the therapy. So anybody that has a psychiatric ailment still needs some form of psychological and social support. So and in depression, even after we give them drugs, you still need to talk them out of it. The drugs alone will not. Yes, the drugs will alter the chemical things that happen in the brain, but you still need to talk to the person. So as a Muslim, it's easier because once you know these things, when you know the stories of the Prophet of Allah that were very close to Allah, and I went through worse things that you are facing, and I already quoted hadith that the more loves you have by Allah, the more your trials. So once you know all this, then there shouldn't be basis for depression. But when it happens, of course, we won't judge you that, oh, why did you take you to depression? But when you commit suicide, the Muslim shouldn't contemplate suicide. But there is a cure, there is drugs we use for people that have depression. So the best way to prevent depression is always know that whatever happens to you is from Allah, and Allah is doing it as a form of expiation of your sins. Now, the second question on Progranil and HBSS, yes, for patients that have sickle cell, we usually give them Progranil because they are more predisposed to having malaria.
Now, you also mentioned that AA is predisposed to malaria. Now, maybe I just talk about a brief history of the ASA genotype. The scientific theory is that the way the red blood cell is, the red blood cell has the hemoglobin genotype A, so the normal one is AA. But because of people in Africa and Asia, because of the mosquitoes around, they became more predisposed to having malaria. So the cells over time evolved and developed the S hemoglobin to make the blood cell a form of abnormal in a way so that the malaria parasite will not affect it. So that is the theoretical and the scientific explanation. That's science. Islamically I don't know. But science says that. Now, so that answers the question. Yes, people that are AA are more predisposed to malaria. Now, SS, because now the S gene in the first place was supposed to protect, but you now have two abnormalities. It was just supposed to be A and S, just to protect. You now have double S. And that is now a cause of problem on its own. The cell is not as flexible as it is, so it has some other complications which I don't start talking about SS now. But in summary, yes, we keep giving Proganil to SS patients because of that. But we cannot say we must be giving AA Proganil all the time. Yes, maybe if AA is predisposed to, maybe you know an environment that are mosquito infested, maybe you are traveling, for example, you are traveling abroad, that if you have malaria, that's some isolation. I know to place in isolation, but those that have traveled abroad, I know you know that if you have malaria in UK or US in isolation, they put you in one word, nobody will come to you and like as if so you can use that just once in a while to protect yourself. Now the local herbs, so I'll answer these local herbs and prophetic medicine together. Now local herbs, the basis in Islam, there's some drugs we use as doctors that have basis from herbs. For example, the artemether that we use is from a Chinese herb. So but what the difference between our own side and our medicine is that we made research. We had control research and studied the exact dosage of the drug. We studied the side effects. Because unlike the herbal something, they just put concoction inside one bottle and tell you there is no dosage. They cannot tell you the side effects. So that's just the difference. But I'm not saying local labs do not work. It works. But the difference is that if people can go into research, make standardized research, and tell us, okay, if you did this study, this is the dosage, these are the side effects, it's accepted. But when you just do trial and error and say, so in some with local labs work, but the difference is that it's not yet as standardized as our own. Then for prophetic medicine, I am not an expert in it, but I came across a study recently by some scholars in Syria also, some doctors. They studied hijama, that's copying. So they were I didn't go through, but from the summary they were able to see some benefits from it. So maybe if other doctors that have interest in prophetic medicine can go into it and make standardized research and publish it, then fine. But for me to say prophetic medicine does not work, I can't say that because it's not my field. I can't, you understand? So what we just do is that people should just conduct research and make it standard and let us know, okay, for social ailment, this is what you use, this research you conducted, and this was the result. And okay, stress and implication. Now, I mentioned when I was talking about stress factors, I said that two hormones that are secreted in times of stress, which are supposed to help you is once in a while, adrenaline and cortisol. Now, what they do is that they try to boost your energy levels by increasing your heart rate, increasing the way your heart works. It's just to help you for a certain time. And the cortisol makes glucose more available to use. But when like I explained about diabetes, what happens is that there is excess glucose in the body. The glucose that is supposed to happen, that is supposed to be useful, because of the insulin defect, it becomes too much in the body and start causing problems. So when the cortisol stays for a long time, it starts causing problems. When the adrenaline stays for a long time, the heart rate is always increased, the heart is working excessively, it becomes a problem. So at the end of, because I didn't finish, I was supposed to talk about one of the things that will help us, and that is rest, adequate rest. So no matter how stressful your work is, you need to take time off, because anything can happen, and you are accountable for yourself and to Allah. So take adequate time off to rest. When you feel that your body is doing somehow, go to see the doctor for adequate checkup and rest. Then aging, health management. But when I said there is no cure, so the health management is that whatever you do at your youthful age is going to tell on you when you go home. So you use, like Prophet said, do 7 things before 17. And one of them was your youthful age before your old age. So all those health measures, you start while you are young. Even if you didn't do them earlier, it's not yet too late. You can still adopt them. Yes, we know the body might not be able to do some physical activities. As I said, you should know yourself. If it's just brisk walking, for the younger people, I don't expect you to be doing brisk walking. You should be jogging. But the older ones, we can't tell our father that are not so strong to our mothers to start jogging. Just do brisk walking. So even at your age, I don't expect old people to be taking alcohol. Even as Muslims, I don't expect you to be taking alcohol. Then as you go older, I'm sure your appetite also drops. So naturally, there are some things, there are some health measures you take. But for cure of old age, like there isn't. Then cancer research in the family. If you have cancer in the family, how do you know? Usually, most people don't know except somebody in the family has been diagnosed. But if you say you want to find out, there are tests, but it's expensive. Because what we do, we check your, like when we check your genes, we check the genetic chart. There are some screening mechanisms to check, like for the breast cancer, that this gene, BRCA, something I've forgotten now. So each of those cancers have their genes, so you can check. But the best thing for you to do, if you don't know, if you have a family history, is go for the common cancer screening. For example, in the women, you should go for your pap smear as a legislated guideline. So if you go for your pap smear, yes, mammogram, self-breast examination, you can take your HPV vaccines to protect you. So all those things, just screen for it. But there are some that might not be easy to detect. For example, ovarian cancer, it's not easy to detect it. Just keep praying that you don't have it. But when you have anything, any issues, you see the doctor on time. Because one thing about cancer is the earlier you pick it, the better. Because once it goes advanced, what's the prognosis? Then someone said, is there cancer in every individual? Like I said, what happens is your cells, but for one reason or the other, they just go haywire, either due to the environment or because of your genetics or because of what you take. So everybody has the tendency of developing cancer, but some people are more prone based on their genetics and the environment than the others. Then carbohydrate reflecting medicine. Then smoked food. Like when I was talking about this, I said any food that is modified one way or the other, scientists will tell you they have probability of causing cancer. Some are more prone, or studies have shown now for the body and the likes. Maybe some people can decide to study it, but for now I don't know any study on body or roasted corn that leads to cancer. So maybe tomorrow some people can go into it and study it and tell you that. But you should also know that, like I said, almost anything can cause, especially once the food is modified. Then depression and janoza. Can you observe janoza for someone that commits suicide? I don't have the answer. Someone that's passed my level. Maybe someone else can answer.
During the time of Usrah, the person who had committed suicide was brought to him, and then they informed him that the person committed suicide. So the prophet refused to perform janaza on the person, but he permitted the companions to do the janaza. And everything that would have been the right of that person was done, but not by the prophet, but by the companions. So from that, the scholars formed the view that the scholars that are known as these are our scholars. If you say Sheikh Adam bin Nori, Sheikh Adabeya, or if they were to be around, they will not perform the janaza on that person. For the likes of me and other molecules, will still be allowed to perform the janaza. But remember, it was not only the person who committed suicide, the person who died, who still had the debts hanging of them. On them, people who died during the time of the prophet, the prophet did not perform the janaza on them unless the people who clear the debts. Where the people were making promise to clear, where the people could not clear the debt, then the prophet permitted the companions to perform the janaza on them. Also, somebody who died on suicide had not died as a kafir, he's only died as a sinner. Suicide is a sin, and whether or not it is forgiven is up to Allah. The person died as a sinner, the person did not die as a kafir. Allah Ta'ala.
My question is very how do you measure this one?
My question is that I know of a sheikh who was bedridden and was also diagnosed to have had cancer. And he simply gave instruction that family should not bother. There's a test from Allah, and eventually he died of that. So what can we say on this? This question sounds funny, but it needs clarification. Somebody posted on my wall and it was lost. Please, oh, let's be serious. Without regular sex, woman risk mental disorder, and for man, he is prone to prostate cancer. How far is it true, sir?
Questions from it's not from the dead side.
Right. You are free.
And I want the question that if someone wants to go to Umrah, to perform Umrah, especially during the month of Ramadan, or the person that go to Hajj to perform both Hajj and Umrah is being allowed, but if we listen to international news 2 weeks ago, we heard it that the king of Saudi Arabia and some leaders of ulama in Africa here, including Nigeria, that they perform Umrah in Kaaba. We are not a month of Ramadan and we are not a month of Hajj. I want to clarify here that it is allowed.
Okay, your question is clear now.
My question is, what's responsible for a young adolescent, maybe in the 20s, having gray hair? Why an older person losing memory, he goes out and he couldn't even find his way back? What would be responsible for such? Thank you.
Okay, that is the final question for this session. So let the lecturer now answer.
How to measure salt and light? Well, what we usually tell our patients is reduce your salt intake, especially like hypertension. But some people, I don't know whether we do that yet. People that are professional chefs usually measure all these things. They have their small stuff, 1 gram of salt, 1 gram of this, 1 gram of that. But if you can go ahead and do it, fine. But you think that most of these, some other food will have some of these items. But we don't say we are going to buy measuring scale and start measuring. We just tell you reduce your salt intake. Up is clear. So we don't tell you to go and buy measure. But if you know someone that can be measuring salt and light, well, then say a sheikh that died of cancer. Now I said in the beginning of the lecture, towards the beginning, that yes, illness is a form of illness. And I also brought an hadith of the Prophet. The Prophet said, when you are ill, you should use medication. And I brought the hadith that God directed the companion to so persons to go and take medication. So that sheikh that refused, maybe his ailment was advanced cancer, I don't know. Because if it's advanced, what we just do palliative. But whichever way, God has already commanded us that when we are sick, that we should use medication. So even though it's a trial from Allah and it's going to expiate your sins, you still have to use medication and try to make yourself well. If someone asks about sex and health, well, people write articles. Well, from Islamic point of view, it's encouraged that couples have regular intercourse. The encourage that each time you have intercourse with your wife, it's written as a form of reward. So Islamic point of view, yes. The scientist said that this hormone that's released in the brain, endorphin hormone, that is a happy hormone that protects against depression. Well, it's possible. Then it's about prostate cancer. Some said that one I'm not so sure, because I read somewhere that it was those that were too sexually active that we exposed. Why some are saying those that don't. To be honest, about the prostate cancer, I really don't know the correlation, whether it's too much or too little. But the fact that yes, when you have intercourse, this is happy hormones. That's Islam encourages couples to have regular intercourse. That's established. Okay, last one.
Well, the simple answer to that is you can perform Umrah any time of the year. So it's not something, just that what the Prophet ﷺ said was that when you perform Umrah during Ramadan, it's equivalent to Hajj. That's why everybody goes to Umrah. But any time of the year, once the Saudi authority permits you to do it, or you find yourself in Alam, you can perform your Umrah. So it's not something new. It's something. Okay,
okay.
No, let me add, even a newly born that has gray hair, silver.
Well, it's just genetics. For some people that just genetically predisposed, but the exact scientific theory behind it, I don't know. But I know some people are genetically predisposed. Then ask about an old person that misses his weight. That's what we call dementia. So the most common one is what we call the Alzheimer's dementia. It's just an irreversible process. It just happens. It's an irreversible process. The brain degenerates gradually. So like the way we manage it, even though it's irreversible, there are some drugs that we can use to stem it. Then we have other types of dementia, like the peak dementia, maybe due to the blood vessels, maybe cerebrovascular accident happened or some viral infection. So whoever has that sort of manifestation, to see a doctor, so the doctor will ascertain what kind of dementia it is and whether it is reversible or not.
So we are going to round up the joint Usrah.
Their habits that leads to dementia.
When someone has an their habits that leads to dementia, now one of the side effects of alcohol is that over time it destroys your cognitive function. So sometimes you have people that have this post-alcohol syndrome. They start confabulating, they forget and they make up stories. So alcohol affects, one of the long-term effects of alcohol is that it affects your cognition and you can have dementia.
I want to use this opportunity to appreciate everybody. This is one of the highest attendance that we have, and it shows that and we have more younger person. Maybe we will now be bringing younger lecturer so that young people will start coming. So I will thank everybody. Like I said, if you are here to write down your name, please make effort to put down your names, because this is the only avenue we can get across to you. We thank you for coming, and we hope to do this next month. So do DHE. So we want to appreciate all the people that contributed towards the successful new DHE that our children had in Ilorin, and we thank all the parents for releasing their children to us, and we thank Allah for making sure that they all come back alive despite the strenuous excursion they had a day before. So we thank Allah. Subhanaka Alhamdulillah, Inshallah, Subhana Rabbika, Rabbil Izzati Amma Yasifun, Wassalamu ala al-Mursalin, Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin.